Warning, this is a movie podcast. There are major spoilers ahead. Watch at your own risk. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Two Nuts in a Shell. I'm your host, Lake.
And I am your co-host, Kobe.
So, on this show, we talk about movies, we talk about TV shows, games, news in general. And today, we're going to kick the series off with a Marvel tier list. So, for our audio listeners, we are using a website to put together all of our favorite and least favorite Marvel movies. And I'm going to bring it up real quick here on screen. This is the tier list. So we have every major MCU movie, and including also, just to note, the Disney Plus shows and also Netflix shows, just for, simplicity's sake. And what we're going to do is we are going to take all of these and rank them. Now, there's one thing we're missing, so I'm just going to real quickly add it right now. So I've made my changes, so we can just hop right in. So first, Ant-Man and the Wasp. In my opinion, pretty much filler. That's all this movie is to me. It doesn't really introduce too much. It's just, Thanos happens. And the other plot point I completely forgot about. Not the worst movie, but I also don't really like it that much, so C tier. Now let's move over to your tier list.
Okay, so Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was a pretty funny movie. Of course, Paul Rudd was in it. Pretty funny.
Yeah, funny guy.
Also, along with it came that Coca-Cola trailer where they're in the car chase. Yeah, I think everybody knows that.
Coca-Cola.
We can roll the clip right here.
Oh boy. Hey, Bruce, you don't mind if I just take this last Coke, do you? Thanks, bye! Oh, you do mind. Sorry!
That was a pretty good ad for Coca-Cola. Not sponsored, by the way. That wasn't an actual ad. So, what do you give it ranking for?
Funny, but like you said, it was pretty much just filler, which I agree with. But it was also pretty funny, so I'm gonna go B tier.
B tier, alright. So, the next one is the original Ant-Man. For me, this goes slightly above. Comedy was on top, just B tier for me, but comedy was on top. It was an introduction to a new character at the time. His own standalone movie. Because I forgot. Did the original Ant-Man come out after or before Civil War? I don't recall.
I think before.
I think before, yeah. Well, I'll just look this up real quick. It did happen before Civil War. But, all things considered, B tier. Alright,
Okay.
time for you to rank it.
Okay, so Ant-Man I liked it, but the first time, I'm going off first impressions and best impressions. My first impression was not the best because I really didn't understand it at the time when I first watched it, but after a couple years I watched it, pretty good. I actually do disagree with you, Lake. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp comedy was better, so I'm going to rank it C tier.
That's reasonable. Kind of a quick role reversal. So next we got a I don't know if this is a popular opinion or an unpopular opinion, but we're coming up on a doozy here. We have Age of Ultron. So Age of Ultron has a couple good things about it. It introduced Vision. It introduced Wanda. It introduced Quicksilver, who also promptly died during the movie. But other than that, there is nothing really good about this. It is not as bad as the F tier's name implies. It's not as bad as that movie, the one we don't talk about. But all things considered, it's an E tier. I didn't really like it. It wasn't exactly filler, I guess, but it didn't really add anything. Other than, Vision, Wanda, and kind of Quicksilver, because he promptly died. But you know what I mean. Alright, your turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Age of Ultron I agree with what you said. Like, it introduced Wanda, Quicksilver, and and
Vision.
Vision. So they had an opportunity to bring more mutants in if they would have kept Peter alive.
Mm-hmm.
They also had another opportunity with Wanda staying alive because she's also a mutant. But yeah, it's fine. They'll have another way to bring mutants in, like spoiler, Multiverse of Madness, where Professor X comes in as the original actor, Patrick Stewart. So I'm gonna rank it E tier. Also, it was not. It was not as bad as that movie, the one we don't talk
Yeah,
about,
we don't talk about
the one that must not be named.
the one that must not be named. Yes. All right. So next, the movie that started it all, at least for modern MCU, Iron Man. I love Iron Man personally. It's not as good as modern Marvel movies. I'll be modest, but it introduced a valuable character. Because in my opinion, if the MCU didn't have as big as a start as Iron Man, although Captain America and Thor, they were both pretty good movies, like pretty alright movies. Iron Man kind of kicked it off, like super kicked it off. So in my opinion, it's not the best Marvel movie ever, but it's going on B tier for me because it's on the same. It's in the league of its own. It's not. It's a weird Paramount movie before Disney bought Marvel, but I like the comedy in it, and it introduced some pretty new. It introduced something pretty new to the superhero world, including the Ten Rings, which we will get to later. All right, it's your turn.
Okay, so Iron Man was great start to modern MCU. Great start.
I agree.
It's not B tier for me. It's gonna go C tier. It would be B tier, but Ho Yinsen in the cave says size does matter. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. Size does not matter. Pluto is a planet.
Pluto reference. Alright. So next movie, Infinity War. It wasn't all that it was exactly cracked up to be. Everyone is there. They said everyone was actually there in Endgame, but you know what I mean. I absolutely love this movie. I don't think that it's as good as some movies that are, coming up next, but I think it deserves an A tier because in my opinion, it's one of those quintessential Marvel movies that and it's the type of thing that even if you've never watched a Marvel movie, you've heard of Infinity War, definitely, and you know that the purple grape guy is in it. All right, that's what you know. All right, next.
Okay, so Infinity War was a good movie. They did trick everybody with the trailer where it shows Hulk running alongside the other Avengers, which did not happen. So, but it was a good movie. I liked how they built Thanos up until this point.
Good build up, yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty good. And it was also the kickoff to some of the greatest Marvel movies. Yeah.
What's your opinion?
So I'm gonna rank it an almost an S, but an A.
A, yeah, because there's some other movies that and TV shows I consider S tier. So, all right, next up is Captain Marvel. Now, as far as Marvel movies go, once again, this one is in a league of its own. At least as far as Marvel movies go, it introduces a new character. Captain Fury is in it, yeah, but it happens like 30 years in the past. It happens pretty far in the past, and it doesn't really, come about as much until Endgame. Other than that, I loved the movie. I think it was pretty good as far as Marvel stuff goes. Crashes into blockbuster. Pretty good movie. I think everything was there, but it is not at the same league as something like Endgame or Infinity War. So I'm gonna put it at B tier. I think it was a pretty alright movie. You?
Okay, so um, let's see. I have a correction to make. Iron Man, I actually meant to say B tier.
Okay, just make that correction.
Sorry.
It's fine.
So, as you did not say, it introduced characters like the Skrulls and Nick Fury, not Captain Fury, Nick Fury. So, it's overhyped a little bit, but it was a nice little movie. I'm gonna put it in C tier.
C tier. All right. Next is, I think it has to be said, a pretty banger movie, Captain America: The First Avenger. I love this movie. It introduced Captain Carter, Red Skull, and of course Captain America in a old comic style. Not in the movie itself and like the art or the editing. Going back to Marvel's roots of kicking Nazi butts. That's kind of the origination of all of Marvel, as it is. And then bringing you to modern 2010 at the end of the movie, fitting it in with the Avengers. I loved this movie. B tier. Similar to Iron Man, it's kind of another movie, but I think Iron Man's like the big movie that, without Iron Man, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wouldn't exist, but exist in its, big form that it is today. Captain America is also a part of that because Captain America is one of the most important characters, in my opinion, inside of Marvel. All right, you go ahead.
Okay, like you said, it introduced Red Skull, Peggy Carter. Peggy Carter, most people thought they weren't going to do anything with her after, but she was actually in Ant-Man. She has her own show.
One shot, Marvel one
she
shot.
also was in Multiverse of Madness and What If. And it was a good movie. It's similar to Iron Man, little kickoff. But it was not my pace, so it is going in C tier.
C tier, alright. Alright, coming up next is another one that, I haven't watched in a while, and I want to rewatch soon. Civil War. So Civil War brought in a bunch of characters into the main focus of Avengers. Stuff like, what's his name? Ant-Man. Don't know why I forgot his name. And one of my favorite characters, I know I'm going to forget people in this, but one of my favorite characters ever, Spider-Man. He's actually in the MCU. How did they do it with Sony? I honestly have no idea, because Sony has historically been very, locked down about, Spider-Man as a character in movies. So when, he came out, I was super surprised the first time I watched it. Because I didn't watch it in theaters, but I watched it after the fact. I was just surprised. Gobsmacked that they got Spider-Man inside of a major MCU movie. But I'm going to stop real quickly, gushing about Spider-Man, and just say, I think it was a pretty good movie. It set up a pretty good rivalry that continued on pretty much until, middle to end of Endgame, because, he was originally very sour, building an iron suit around the world, and, they're angry at each other. So I'm going to give this a C tier. Not my favorite movie, but I did really like it. Alright, you next.
Okay, so, Spider-Man was introduced in here, and it's a great movie. had some good build up with Iron Man and Captain America not getting over their argument over the Sokovia Rule, and it was a good little movie. Told about like Bucky and Iron Man's parents and stuff, some more, and yeah, it was a good movie. I'm gonna put it B tier.
B tier, good. All right, next is Doctor Strange, the original. I'm unsure if this is newest updated, by the way. It doesn't look like it has. Does it have Multiverse of Madness? Oh, it does. It's very updated. All right. Anyways, continuing. Doctor Strange is a pretty good Marvel movie. I've rewatched it a bunch. It still doesn't, fail to, make me pretty happy with how it went. New character, really sick premise. B tier. Nothing much else to say. All right, go ahead.
Doctor Strange is good. Introduced good Marvel character. I liked his backstory with the car accident and his hands being unable to use.
Keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah. Don't text and drive or drink and drive or any of that. And it was a good movie. I like Dormammu and all that. I'm gonna put it A tier.
Hi, sorry for ending this episode so abruptly, but we had to get this episode up by a certain time, so we'll release a part 2. Thanks.